Uh-huh. Well, I mean, you just tell the Prime Minister that I'm about to film a video, so he's going to have to call back later. Okay, okay, bye-bye. What's up, guys? Dylan here from AYCB, welcoming you back to the table for a video review of Stellar. Now, two-player board games are some of the most important in the genre because it's just the most accessible player count. It doesn't take a lot to get to the table, but that genre is full of some really great titles already, so it takes something really special for them to stand out. Stellar not only stands out, it stakes its claim as one of the most strategic and deep in the genre. Stellar isn't just one of the most beautiful two-player games I own, it's one of the most beautiful board games I own, period. The artwork is really eye-catching with the space theme. You know, you have a lot of interstellar stuff going on that just has really vibrant colors and is really eye-catching. The telescope cards that you set up at the beginning of each game give it that, table appeal immediately if you're trying to introduce this to someone for the first time. It looks really nice when it's first set up. The celestial object cards are equally nice, if a little bit repetitive at times. There's some duplicates that'll come up, and a lot of the planet cards can kind of look a little bit the same with different color schemes. But that being said, they're all really well illustrated. That's a really minor complaint. The game overall is really beautiful, and for a small box game, even the box itself is great. For a small box game, that's really important, just to try to catch your attention, because there's a lot of smaller games out there for it to compete with. There's not really a lot of components to talk about. It's just a card game, so there's only cards that you're going to be getting in the box, but they're great quality. There's nothing bad to say about them. And honestly, there's really nothing bad I can say in terms of artwork and components. Everything is really well done. If I'm being really picky, the only issue I ever ran into was the fact that because you're building on top of your telescope cards, you're placing cards on top of other cards. Sometimes they slide around, things can get, pushed out of order, and you have to kind of adjust them again. That's a really minor complaint, but it just speaks volumes to how well this is from an artwork and components perspective. That's the only complaint I can really come up with, is just this nitpicky thing. Stellar is very unassuming as a two-player small box experience. You wouldn't be faulted for thinking that it's going to be a lot more of a relaxed experience based on what you see on the box. It's actually a very complex game, and I would even recommend that the first time you play it, you plan to play two games. One to sort of just fully grasp the rules, fully grasp the scoring conditions and how best to try to win the game. And the second one to really play the game and really actually feel like you're playing it competitively, because there's just so much going on here that even after reading the rules, it's really hard to get that full grasp just off reading them and then jump right in and feel like you've played a fully functional game of Stellar. There's just a ton to think about in Stellar. Like, every move you make feels like it has ramifications on that same turn as well as future turns. Something as simple as just playing a card from your hand. You're playing a card, but you have to decide, am I playing it in the top of the telescope? Am I playing it in the bottom of the telescope? Am I playing it in the middle of the telescope? Do I even not want to play in the telescope and just play in my notebook? What numbers on the card that you play is going to determine what card comes out of the row and gets played in the other area of either your telescope or your notebook. So just the act of playing a card has so many things to consider that it's not unusual to get that analysis paralysis the first few times you play and feel like, is this going to be the right move? Because when I play it, it just sets off a chain of events and I can't take that back. So it's very deep, very complex. Won't be for everybody because of that, but I found that just so rewarding for such a small game to really feel like every move I made mattered, and when I won or made a really good move, it just felt really good because of it. I'll just briefly mention that the design aspect of when you play a card, it triggers what your next card's going to be, is just wonderful. It feels so good and so challenging to say, I really want to play this card, but that's going to make me have to take this card. Do I want that? And if I don't, how can I achieve what I want and still get the card that I do want out of the row? It's just, it's a level of thinking that just, it takes a while, and it won't be for everybody to have to think that critically every single turn. But it's just, I found it so rewarding, and it's just such a cool mechanic to play around with. And one last thing to note is that for such a small game, it takes up a surprising amount of table space. So you're going to have a bigger table ready, or like a dining room table size table, maybe, well, I guess it depends on your dining room table, but just something bigger than maybe a coffee table. I played it once on a coffee table and it worked fine, but it took up the entire coffee table. Having two of these telescopes, having a market row, having your notebook for each player, it's going to fill up the entire table. You're going to feel a little bit cramped, so just keep that in mind when you're setting it up. You want to give yourself as much breathing room as you can. Again, if you're someone who loves strategy games and loves like bigger box experiences like that with like larger player counts, and you've been craving something like that and that feels that rewarding from a smaller box experience, from a two-player game, this game is going to be absolutely perfect for you. I felt that there was sometimes as much strategy here as bigger games that I played, like Feast for Odin and stuff. For what you're expecting of a 2-player small box experience, it just blew me away. And I think that's really going to resonate with a lot of people who are those type of gamers and are looking for that type of experience. Also, there's a surprising amount of scoring conditions. So not only are you scoring based on the stars that are in your telescope multiplied by the runs of numbers in your notebook, you're also scoring for each section of the telescope, so the top, the middle, and the bottom, whoever has the most majority in each of those, as well as a diversity bonus on top of that for having one of each type of celestial object. So there's a lot of things to consider, and there's a lot of ways to bounce back. If you find that you're really blowing it on planets, you just can't get the run you want, you can't get the stars you want, you can just put one in your notebook or in your telescope to get the diversity bonus, and then just abandon them completely and go hard into another type of celestial object and try to offset what your opponent might be gaining there. So there's enough things to score points in that you don't necessarily have to do it all, but you can just kind of find your niche and just try to really go hard on that and balance out what your opponent's doing. It makes it so that you're never really out of the game, you never feel like you're out of the game. There's somewhere you can drive your attention to really get back into it if you're falling behind. So I really appreciated that about Stellar. For how much the game offers, you can't really go wrong with the value in this box. 2-player games, small box games are already wildly affordable. This one's no different. But for how much it offers, it just feels like you're getting a lot more than what you paid for, which is really, really good to say about a board game. On the other hand, this isn't necessarily one that you're going to always want to play multiple times in one sitting. The first time you play, I know I recommended it and I still do, but after that I found that every time I played one game of it, I was spent of all the critical thinking and strategy I was doing, that I never really had the brain power at that moment to play a second one of that kind of complex of a game. That won't be for everyone. Sometimes you might want to play 5 in a row, and that's totally cool. For me, I just felt like this was a game that was just good for one game in a sitting, and then I would come back to it another time. Stellar really is in the upper echelon of 2-player small box experiences. If you're looking for something like that with more strategy and more depth that you can play with a partner or a friend, this should really be at the top of your list. And that's what I thought of Stellar. If you want to learn more about it, check out our written review. If you want to learn more about other games, check out our website. I'm Dylann from AYCB, and we will see you next time.